Okay, so we're live. Um, I'm live on both YouTube and uh, X or Twitter. So if you want to comment and have me see it, it's probably going to have to go to YouTube. But I'm live on both. So I finished the book. I finished this monster book right here that everybody's yelling about. I know yelled about a few months ago, but I have a copy and I took part of the Christmas break and I read it cover to cover because everybody screamed about it, and I figured let's go see what they're all screaming about. Yes, there is a preface and an introduction with a couple of paragraphs that are just downright stupid. I would have never written them. It's written by Jason Tondro and John Peterson. Dickhead moves, should have never done it. They did it. It's 5 paragraphs, whatever. Um, a lot of people came at it and were like, oh my God, the whole book is going to be full of this rewriting of history and revisionist and everything else. And it came from a lot of people who hadn't actually read it and admittedly didn't own it and wouldn't own it. So here it is. I have it. And I read every page of it that Wizards of the Coast wrote. It has a lot of reprints of original rules, original um, articles from Dragon Magazine. It has even a first draft in it that has hand drawn maps, if you can see that. If my screen doesn't decide to go white on us all, which it's going to do, it doesn't matter. So it has hand drawn maps. It has a first edition, a first writing of it, first draft of it, with handwritten notes by Arneson and Gygax. Great stuff. And yes, the introduction and the preface does have some problematic things in it. But that's really the extent of the problematic stuff. There's 4 pages up front. Um, Stupid things to write. I would have never done it. But then you got 600 pages of really good stuff. And when I say really good stuff, what do I mean? Well, let's take a quick look. I mean things like this, where you've got handwritten drafts of things that just I don't think have ever before been seen outside of some vault someplace or some file cabinet someplace. So you got this sort of stuff that's in there that it kind of pops out as, hey, that's pretty cool to see because I'd never seen stuff like some of these things before. You've got other things in it that are even cooler. You've got some handwritten maps that. Sorry about that. You got some little glitch there. You got some handwritten maps that were done by some of the original playtesters. Now let's present again. So what am I looking at here? We've got some of these handwritten maps that are in there that were done by, like that's a Rob Kuntz map. But you got some of that kind of stuff in there, which is fantastic. You have notes from Gary himself in it that were written by hand. You know, you've got all these kind of cool things in it. Let me share my screen. Let me pop up another window for you. Someday I'll get a system better than StreamYard that actually does this. Might have to put it together myself. So you got these handwritten notes from Gary on stuff that he wanted to add, and all that's really cool. And it's all over the book. And we've got 600 plus pages of that kind of stuff, including some of the original prints, the second edition prints, some covers of early Dragon magazines. It's a 576 page book with 4 pages up front that have 5 paragraphs are the dumbest fucking thing I've ever read in my entire life, but they're there. Other than that, it's got a lot of bits of history that I didn't know, right? It's got a lot of bits of history that I thought were really cool that I had to go out and get confirmation on. I was like asking people that were kind of early stage people who follow me on Twitter. I'm like, hey, was this real? Did this really happen? And they're like, yeah, I can confirm that. I can confirm these things. So all the stuff that's in it, I could get confirmation on from some reliable source. Now there are a couple of things like, page 331, which I think is that page right there that you see on the screen. Gary's handwritten notes on new monsters that he wanted to add and information about old ones that were already in the game. The maps I showed earlier, sorry, those were Greyhawk maps. Greyhawk maps. Those were Jim Ward's. Looking at my notes, I learned that Blackmore, the first Blackmore supplement, was the first place we ever heard the word Dungeon Master. I didn't know that, and I've been playing since like '82. So there's a lot of really good stuff in it, and all the people that yelled about it up front also, kind of screamed and yelled about those 2 pages because I think somebody found those 2 pages and then those 4 pages, and then off go hundreds of YouTube videos of the world's going to stop revolving on its axis and we're not going to be able to talk about Dungeons and Dragons again. And, whatever, the Pinkertons are going to come to everybody's house and kill us all. None of which is true. But then I finally get to the end and I find this, and I kind of agree with this. And by the way, no other page in the book written by Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, whoever, no other page could I find anything that I couldn't either confirm or just say, okay, they're just reporting facts. They're just looking at things. In here, this is back on towards the very end of the book. They were talking about gods, demigods, and heroes, which I think became deities and demigods eventually. And it's like back on page 570 something. Yeah, it's page 574 out of a 576 page book. Only other spot I found anything that you might possibly consider out of line in the book was somewhere in here. While some of these deities are associated with ancient cultures and considered mythological, others are widely worshipped today. In addition to this cultural insensitive comment, gods, demigods, and heroes also includes characters from Robert E. Howard's Conan novels, kind of a copyright issue, and Michael Moorcock stories, Elric of I'm not going to be able to pronounce that, so I'm not even going to try. The only other page I found in the book that had anything that might be considered Hasbro attempting to rewrite history or make an excuse for something is that one. And honestly, if you think about it for a minute, that's not that out of line. Right? Is it considered culturally insensitive content? Sure. Yeah. If you want some deeply religious Christian person to come in and fight Jesus, sure, it would be culturally insensitive. But that being said, outside of one sentence here and 4 pages in the front, the hubbub over this book is largely overblown. It's the only other thing I could say about it is it could have been cheaper because they used shockingly thick paper that has this sort of fake parchment coloring all over it. They could have put this together in a much different format, maybe had like the big thick one as a collector's item and a smaller one that costs less for people that didn't want to spend $100 on it. Well, I think you can get it on Amazon now for like $50, or you could for a while. But that being said, it had a lot of really good stuff in it that I really appreciated them taking the time to put together. Looking at Gary's notes or Dave and Gary's letters back to each other was pretty cool. Looking at those handwritten notes in the margins by the guys that created the game was really cool. And it's all in here. Somebody's probably going to come up and say, oh, look, but you can get that on some other format or download it someplace. And maybe that's true. I don't know. I couldn't find some of these things anyplace else. So I got the book. I'm not upset that I have it. I have read it cover to cover. Anybody wants to discuss it, I'm always around. But, it does not deserve the hatred that it gets. In fact, in some ways, it's a very interesting piece of history. It's got a lot of cool stuff in it. Nice book. It weighs a freaking ton. But, there it is. I have read it, and I'm not upset that I did. And I learned a whole lot of D&D history from it. And I've been playing since like 82. So, I wouldn't be afraid of it. Yeah, there's those 4 pages up front, and some people are going to be offended that I actually paid Hasbro for it. By the way, one person came at me on X and was like, I hope you stole that book and didn't pay for it. No, I bought it like a grown-up. I think sometimes people just need to chill the hell out and move on with their lives and not try to come at each other in this kind of stupid ass way. And just because you don't want to buy something doesn't mean I can't do it. And that doesn't make me a corporate stooge. That doesn't make me anything other than a guy who wanted to read the book. And I did. And I enjoyed it. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. I hope you had a fantastic holiday. We got New Year's coming up, so I hope you enjoy that one as well. And hope everybody stays safe, because I heard there's also been a whole bunch of flights being canceled today. So enjoy yourselves out there, and happy holidays.